Oh, what's up, guys? Welcome to this past weekend. I am a little under the weather today. Let me turn these lights down a little. Oh, yeah. I needed a little calmer in here. I might even light a damn candle, even though the people that work here get upset if we do. Whatever. What's up? Welcome to this past weekend. Hope you guys are doing swell. What's going on, man? We didn't do it's not a regular start to the episode today. It's a little more low key. I got home yesterday and I wasn't feeling good. So I just feel sick. My head feels like somebody made like you ever have like somebody, you microwave a little bowl of Campbell's soup. And if my head feels like somebody microwaved like a little bowl of Campbell's, maybe that chowder, or what like a beef stroganoff or something, and left it in the microwave, never ate it. They were high when they cooked it and then they went to sleep. And that's what my head feels like. I just feel like I have this kind of like bouillabaisse going on inside of my head, and that's okay though. Whatever. I'm sick. That's all right. You're here. I'm here. And I am happy to be here. Today, it's Monday morning, and everybody, I was out of town this weekend, but everybody here in the comedy universe is thinking about Brody Stevens, who passed away, and the news articles were everywhere. I'm sure you saw them all over the internet. And, Brody, Brody was a one-of-a-kind performer. And people say that a lot, but Brody kind of, he loved like knowing where people were from and being able to relate to people, especially people from California. He was a friendly guy. He was big, but he was gentle. He was a really gentle fella. And and it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and I've been thinking about it a little bit and called a couple people that had spoken to him last and talked to him this week, and he'd been talking about how he was off his medication. He was struggling, or he'd gone off and was getting back on. And that seems to be what most people are attributing his uncomfort to, or the depth of his uncomfort, that it got to a point where he took his own life, and where he took his own life by, even hanging himself. And that, it's just scary. It's very sad. It's heartbreaking to know that this human, this big entity, he was 6'4", maybe. He was, he was loud, and he was so alive on stage. He used to pitch baseball at Arizona State. He liked to play the drums. He would drum on anything. Sometimes during his sets, if the sets weren't going good, he would just get drumsticks or even invisible drumsticks and just start playing on the chairs and the stage or whatever. He just like any comedian, he loved the attention. He loved the, there was some equation in the getting attention from a stage that made him feel okay. It made him feel okay. And it's just wild. It's like you think like, oh, well, the medicine, are you angry at the medicine? But then the medicine may have been what kept him comfortable for many years. He'd had an instance years ago where he went off his medication and he had to be 5150'd, I think. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he went to he went into a kind of a psychosis bit. But I didn't know Brody super well. I mean, I would see him at the store. We would talk. Nothing real outlandish, but he was always, nothing real, nothing of a ton of depth, unless we were in a conversation together with other people, or unless specifically I was talking to him about baseball or vitamins. He loved to talk about vitamins and different things he did to make himself feel better. One thing that I noticed in looking and thinking about him and looking back at watching him perform, he always talked about positive energy. He'd say, positive energy. And I always thought, I was like, man, it's so wild that that's his creed. It was kind of the banner that he carried. It was, he had to tell us all, like, we have to be forward, onward. He was a definition of onward. It was constantly like, lifting spirits. That was his thing. And now I kind of maybe, I realize, or I wonder if maybe he was also just really lifting his own. He always talked about the positive energy because he needed to lift his own spirits. And, you wonder, like, you watch someone's act on stage and you wonder how much of it is real and how much of it is, it's like, what's for the audience and what's for the entertainer themselves. And part of the thing I think in looking back at Brody, and this is just my perception, I could be wrong, and it doesn't matter if I'm wrong or right, but that he was, he was entertaining the crowd, but at the same time he was lifting himself up. Like all the times he talked about relating to people, like he would ask somebody where they played, where they went to high school, and they'd say, I went to high school at Reseda Middle. And then he'd rattle off the address of the Reseda Middle. I know where that is. That's at blah, 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 Antioch Boulevard or something. And then he would say relatable, like he had related to the person in the audience. And I guess now I'm just kind of dissecting, some of just the way. And so I guess it was like, he used these moments on stage to preach the things that he needed for himself, it seemed like, or to not preach them, but to kind of speak them the best way he could, that he needed to feel related to, and he needed to have positive energy constantly to keep himself motivated and excited. And that's how he did it, that he facilitated that through getting on the stage a lot. And it's just, it's just interesting. It's interesting how many times I sit there and watch somebody's act and I'm like, oh, this is an act. But then how many times am I thinking, oh, what in here are the tools or the exponents that this entertainer is using to actually keep themselves okay today, to keep themselves well, mentally well. And then I thought Brody hung himself. And that's just so, it's so crazy. It's so foreign. It's so alien to think someone standing on top of something, putting a rope around. There's just so many physical moments you have to go through to do that. And, now, if you're a short guy, it's probably not that, it's easy. Hell, you could hang yourself off of a handle on a shiffer robe, probably, if you had a big, tall man, and he was a 300, Brody was probably 250. He was thick. He had those brontosaurus. He was brontosaurus. He had them big bones, I mean, you might see his bones on the Flintstones. He had those kind of bones. Them thick hitters, baby. He had that dude was marrow plentiful. He probably had about 2 pounds of marrow in him. Straight marrow. And you think about somebody going through those motions. And I'm sorry to talk about some of this, but, I think I need to think about it. And, And then I'm not sorry to talk about it because this is what this is. But it makes me sad. The first thing you think is like, could I have done something else? And it's, I hate to say this, but I feel like his death maybe was unpreventable. And I never thought about this before whenever someone that I knew had taken their life but Brody got a lot of attention at the Comedy Store on performing. He had friends that he was close to that, they talked about mental health. He talked about mental health a lot. Like, that's another thing. If I was switching doses or something, excuse me, I take antidepressants. I take, I don't know what mine is, sertraline or whatever. I think it's Lexapro. I take one of those, and I'm switching to something else called Vibrid. But he talked a lot. You could talk to him about that, and he would tell you kind of what his experience had been if he had taken something of that, or taken something similar, or just, he would always, he seemed like a lifeguard a little bit on the edge of the pool of mental wellness. And if you were in the pool, he wasn't like that lifeguard that was over there with the glasses on and the whistle just trying to fuck everybody, and skeeting out with a little sunscreen here and there, and saying they're going to get a soda, but really they're going out to their car to get a little hit of weed and come back in there. And then they're supposed to save people when they're high on weed, like people in my hometown used to. I remember going to the lifeguard one time, dude, a friend of mine, I thought he was drowning, and the lifeguard was like, man, I'm fucked up, bruh. And that was it, dude. So I had to go and try to rescue my friend, man, and thank God I was able to help. And an old man helped too. I thought, honestly, in hindsight, pedophile, man, not even, because he kept helping him. Like, he helped him out of the pool, then he helped him back into the locker room, then he was toweling my buddy, dude. My buddy, what the fuck's going on out here? But anyway, he was like that lifeguard that was on the edge of the pool of mental wellness, and he could help you. He was there to talk to you if you needed to, and he was a caring guy. He had a big heart. And I think if there's anything that we all think we relate to the world personally. So if there's anything that I feel remorse for in my own little life, it is that I didn't get to know the big heart that was inside of him better. That I didn't make more of an effort. And I never knew sometimes if Brody was being serious or not. I never knew. I never knew if he was being serious or not a lot of times. But I bet if I'd have spent maybe a little more time getting to know him, then I would have known more. But I mean, that can be said for anyone, and your life goes the way it goes, and you can't know everybody. But it definitely seemed like I haven't heard anyone say, oh, there were all these warning signs. There was the fact that he was changing medication, or got off his medication, was getting back on his medication. And that, apparently there's a pretty big dip sometimes when that happens in your, serotonin levels, or I don't know. I'm going out on, everyday Jackson rhetoric here. Or everyday Jackson diatribe. I'm just talking out of my butt, but also with some of my brain in there. But that he went off and he got back on, and there was a dip in there, and then that's, whenever he found some, maybe a level of discomfort hit him, and his brain wasn't at a level where it could handle it or something. I don't know. We'll never really know. So, and it's crazy to think if it's unpreventable. I mean, it would have been preventable if he didn't switch his medications, maybe. But it didn't seem like anything anybody could have said that day or did that day. And you can't spend every night with someone that you don't, we can't, people can only really do what they're doing and do the best that they are doing in a specific instance. And, and the hanging part is what also gets me out, with Robin Williams hung himself. It's such a, and I don't mean this in a base way, but I mean this it's such a performer thing. It's such a display. It's like your last bit. It's like, oh, I need to show you that I'm not doing well. And I couldn't show anyone how bad I'm feeling or how uncomfortable I feel except with this last display of art. Because it's such a presentation, It's such a specific thing. It's like I need to stop my head. Like I need to litigate my head from my body. That's not called ligature. Oh, ligature. Yeah, I need to stop. I need to stop this head from infecting the rest of me. And this is the only way I know how to do it, is to literally, or not literally, but, I don't know, just to cut it off at the pass. I need to tighten right here so that my brain doesn't keep bothering the rest of me. And I didn't mean to get on, it's just sad, man. It's very sad. And people say suicide is selfish, and yeah, I think suicide is a selfish thing. I mean, yeah, it's you, but it's your life, it's your relation with the world. But I just don't know how this would have been preventable. Unless his medication, maybe he didn't, or if he wasn't. I'm not sure if a doctor recommended that he switch with his medication and get off and get back on, or I don't know. Man, it's sad though. It's sad to think that there was this being that's just not here now. But I do hope that he's somewhere where he is at a lot more at peace. And I'm sure that he is. What else? Sorry to start us off like that. I'm not going to be in here too long today, man. I do not feel good. I have a fever. I got a fever Saturday. And I just didn't feel good. And I'm sorry that we didn't do some meet and greets in Houston for the early shows, but there's not enough time. That second show comes so quick that it would move the second show back like an hour. And, the clubs don't really want to roll like that. So, but I had a great time, and I loved that club. It was so great. So many, nice people. People came out for their first comedy shows ever. A couple that I'd met up in Wyoming came out to the show. They had been living in Chicago before, and they were just going to change their lives and move and heading down to Houston. And they said, if you're ever down there, we'll come. And then they were there. But Saturday night I got sick. So if I did do some pictures after Saturday night after the late show, and I'm sorry if I was short with people, but at that point I was just beat. Man, I just didn't feel good. But that Saturday late show, man, was fire. That was such a fun one. I got a standing ovation. Never got that in my life. And it was kind of interesting because I didn't really know how to. I mean, and maybe it sounds bizarre. I'm not trying to be braggy, but I'm just trying to take myself through the moments of it. Somebody stood up and then somebody else, and then next thing you know, like everybody was standing up clapping, and I just felt. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just felt, grateful. So thank you guys. Thank you, Houston. My babysitter came out. Dude, they had a babysitter. We had a babysitter when I was a kid, and she used to watch us. And I hadn't seen her since then. I hadn't seen her since I was probably 9. And she came out with her husband. And it was, it was funny. She was just telling me stories of when I was little. And we had, and she was, attractive babysitter too. And she was still attractive. She'd really been holding it down in the mirror. And it was just great, man. We got to just talk about little things that I remembered from being young, and she was able to fill in some of the blanks and, told me some stories about my dad would come home and there'd be 4 kids running around, and, at that point, he's probably 77 years old, and he would just Go straight to the bar. He would just say, look, I'm going to go lick a stamp. That's what she said. He told her. And that meant he was going to get a drink. And what else? Yeah, she just talked, said my mom always worked and that we were pretty well-behaved children. We got into bed on time, and she said I wet the bed, which was good to hear because I thought I did, and I knew I did. So it's nice to just back that up with a little bit of evidence. But it was a good experience, man. Had a good experience down there. And I'm trying to think of what else happened, man. I got that congestion. But I got a couple of nice gifts. Somebody gave me this beautiful little ladybug, this young girl. And I was in such a hurry and I felt bad, but I just didn't feel good. But she gave me a nice ladybug. And what else? Somebody brought me this little care package that had some beautiful socks in it. They had Grover and Sesame Street on them, and nice card. And it's a little bit of picture of a squirrel. Who else, man? Who else came out? What else, man? I got a nice shirt, this really cool TFATK style shirt that this guy created himself. That was pretty dope. Yeah, there's some nice gifts. A young fella came out that I used to live with when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I went to live with a family, and I lived with them for probably about 3 years. And he came out. And I still spend time with his family every time I go home to Louisiana. I mean, I still have a room there, and he came out, so it was good to see him. And I'm grateful to him because him just letting me come and stay over at their house when I was young. It gave me more of a comfortable place where I could just feel okay. It gave me that, and I needed that at that time in my life. And I'm grateful for moments like those because it shows me the value of that. And moving forward in my life, if I'm able to, provide that for young people and stuff as I get older, if my, children have friends one day and that sort of thing, just to see how there can be value there. And just giving somebody a place where they can find a little bit of peace, sometimes. What else? I'm going, next week I'm in Boston. Not this week, but next week at the Chevalier Theater, Thursday, March 7th. And then Friday, I'm at the Wilbur. Friday, March 8th, and then Saturday, March 9th, I'm at the Borgata. Then also I'm at the San Jose Improv in late March, and Caroline's in New York City, May 3rd and May 4th. We're going to decide this week about if we're going to be able to add some more shows in Australia and then start looking into the fall. And I really want to come over there to the UK, mate. I want to come to the UK. So that would be good. Yeah, but I was thinking about Brody and just what it takes to be, just what does it take to be okay or to say I'm not okay? That's one thing I notice that I never say. If, I'll say how I'm feeling sometimes, but sometimes I don't want to say really just the exact words that I'm not okay, And I think that's probably what seems like something that is kind of really crucial and helpful to people, or which I've noticed to myself is helpful to me is in find an environment or a person where I can say those things. Just tell somebody, like when they ask me, because you always think that people don't really care. They don't want to be bothered. That's another thing. If you're a nice person and you don't feel well, you don't want to bother people. You don't want to bother them. You don't want to say, oh, well, I'm not okay. Because you think, oh, well, they're in a hurry. They have to go do this or they have to do that, or they're going to think I'm weird. But there's something where where it's so hard to say that. And for me, that's what I start to find is the thing that I want to say the most sometimes. Hey, I'm not okay. And you don't even have to know why. That's another thing. Sometimes we feel like, oh, I got to know why I don't feel good. But that isn't necessarily true. You don't have to know why you don't feel good, I don't think. I mean, we don't know why. Sometimes I just don't feel good. Sometimes I just don't. Whatever I am, whatever the little being that I am, it doesn't feel okay. I don't feel okay. And that's when I find that I have disconnects in my life, is when there are moments in my life where I probably should have told people that and I didn't say it. Where it'd be when I was real young or whatever. I just didn't say it, or I didn't know how to say it, or I was embarrassed to say it, or I was ashamed of myself. I don't want to tell them I'm not okay. They're going to think I'm weird, and sometimes a sense of pride. It's like, oh, I'm not telling anybody I'm not okay. I'll show them I'm going to be okay, even though I'm not okay. And in the end, you don't really show anybody. I mean, you show yourself, actually, I guess you show yourself that you are strong. But it seems to be kind of a irreverent strength that you just kind of created, because in the end, you're not really empowered. So it's not a strength that really empowers you to say that I'm, if you're not okay, and to tell people that, and to keep it from people. It's like you do achieve your goal. Oh, I'm not going to tell them, man. I'm going to be tough. Well, you achieve that goal. You do. So that is, you probably get some sense of achievement from that. But I bet the long-term value of that isn't that comfortable inside of you, because whatever that root of not okay is, it doesn't really, solve it. It doesn't really help figure out where it is, or help follow the root down into the dirt more. But I don't know. I just feel for, I feel for Brody. I feel for anybody thinking that they're going through that moment. In those moments where your brain, at that point, you're in another spatial dimension in your head, because you're thinking, okay, I'm doing this. And this is the only way that I can show right now that something is wrong. And it makes me wonder about mental health. Like, what kind of medicine are we putting people on? Makes me scared about the medicine that I'm on as I took it this morning. I'm thinking, man. Oh. Anyway, I didn't mean to be a downer. I did not mean to be a downer. But it's heartbreaking. One of the saddest things I feel like, or one thing that I feel like is sad, and I don't know if this is judgmental in some way, but Brody did a great job of, the Comedy Store has there's a lot of comics a lot of the same comics work there. It's just like a lot of comics that are doing well right now, and those change over time. And Brody always had kind of the later night spots. So he always was kind of like the king of this sort of later night group of comedians, in a way, that were that are great comedians, but just aren't in the top 4 or 5 spots. And I'm out there sort of in the middle of those groups, which I'm grateful to be in, and that's their judgment of me. And I'm happy to be at the Comedy Store. It's the only place in LA that I really feel comfortable. And Brody was kind of right, into these sort of late night spots where he kind of held down. He was kind of like the king of this little late night kind of crew. And, and I just know they're all going to miss their fearless leader that had all this experience. But rest in peace, bud. We love you. And I'm sorry that we didn't tell you that more. What else? Bob Kraft got that HJ or that BJ, and we don't know. And we may never know. All I'm saying is they definitely deflated his balls, you feel me? And they said there's video replay of it coming soon. Which, yes, I am 60 or 70 days off porn, but I will be watching that, boy. You don't think I'm gonna watch a 70-year-old Jewish dude get jayed out in a semi-dark room? Come on, bro. Then you don't know me. Then you don't know what I'm into. I'm joking. I'm not into that, but I'll watch it once, like every other straight male. I'll watch it one time. But apparently this was a hot spot for fellas that wanted to pop through and get that Jackie Yaki. That wanted to get that pop. You know? That skeeter eat. And here's what's come into this argument is like, oh, are these people there? Were they sex trafficked and this and that? And I mean, and that's where it's tough. It's like, yeah, you want to shut down sex trafficking. Also, if a woman is using that method of earning money to survive and is okay with it, you know, I think that there should be protection for those women as well. Because some people are okay with that. Some people's sexuality to them is very different. You know, and a lot of our American views are different of sexuality. Now, if the woman's being abused or something like that, then that's really out there. That's that's wrong. But if this lady's just quick with the carpals and she's just hitting you with that hand ginsu and popping them newts out of you and getting that full body spray going, then what is that? I mean, that's nature. So, but it's one of the first things where, like Bob Kraft, you're like, oh, he's just like, he's just a regular guy. He's driving across town to get tugged out over there, pick up a little bit of milk and apples on the way home. I don't know. What else? Good luck to Dustin Poirier, that Louisiana diamond, baby. Takes a lot of pressure to make a diamond, dude, and they got a good one. Dustin Poirier, boy, that slithery bad boy, he's going to get that fight against Max Holloway, that title shot in Atlanta on April 13th. And also Anthony Lionheart Smith, good luck in your battle with John Jones, man. I mean, I cannot even imagine, but you're a braver man than probably anybody. You might be the bravest man in the world. So excited for both those dudes. I've been watching Dustin's Instagram. If you don't follow his Instagram, it's pretty funny watching him, go for runs and just training, and you can feel his excitement. And that's exciting, man. I like to watch some of these guys because that's something I'm not brave enough to do, is what they do. And it's really exciting to see them get in there like that. That's it, man. I'm not feeling super great, so I'm going to call it. But thank you to everybody that came out in Houston. Man, there's some people that I'm forgetting that came out. I know I'm just sorry that I didn't get to spend a little bit more time and meet everybody. The shows were too close together to do meet and greets for the early shows. And I did my best for the late shows to meet everybody. And I tried to sneak out on the early ones and get into the crowd at the end and hang out. And I'm just sorry that I didn't get to. Because I know that's important to some of you guys, and it's important to me too. It's also, it's also important to monitor how I'm feeling so that I have enough energy to put the show on. But I put my all into those shows, and I just really appreciate you guys coming out. I love to. There's a couple moments sometimes in the show where, I just feel like we're in like a little bit of like a different world for a second, or I don't know what it is. It's just like we're in like a place and just everything's kind of okay for a little bit here and there. There's some pockets where it just feels like everything's okay. We love you, Brody. And I'll see you guys next week. And we got Dane Cook coming in this week on the podcast. So if you got questions, send them in. They just had an interesting article about him in Variety. You know, he's trying to make a comeback. He's a very what is it called when somebody's very polarizing? He seems to be a very polarizing guy. So we'll see. We'll see what we can talk about. You guys be good to yourselves. You probably deserve it. And take care of each other. Gang, gang.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone. Oh, but when I reach that ground, I'll share this peace of mind I found. I can feel it in my bones, but it's gonna take a little time for me to set that parking brake and let myself unwind. Shine.